Of course, Australia now has its own economic engagement strategy for India, the Peter Varghese report. Particularly for businesses, are there key cybersecurity issues that they should be aware of?
So I think it can be an area of mutual cooperation, primarily also because I think the threats faced by India and Australia are fairly common. I mean, I'm just looking at the critical infrastructure protection. The fact is that whereas India set up a specialized agency for critical infrastructure, similarly Australia has also set up a critical infrastructure center within the Department of Home Affairs. So that can be a good area of mutual cooperation where both the countries can learn from each other as in terms of what are the threat vectors and in what manner that risk pans out. I think the second area of collaboration for India and Australia would be something to do in the Indo-Pacific, because again, India has taken a lead on cyber diplomacy and Australia has also spoken about international cyber engagement strategy focused on the Indo-Pacific and the resilience of the Indo-Pacific countries to tackle the cyber threats. So I think that can be a good area of collaboration where both the countries do certain kind of capacity building for the smaller countries in the region.
If I can ask you about the issue of 5G and Huawei, India, of course, has a very complex diplomatic relationship with China. We've seen Australia and the US, to name two countries, ban Huawei. Is that a similar discussion that's currently underway in India?
But it's also a timely debate in India. In fact, next month, 3 Indian telecom companies are starting the 5G trials, and they have actually relied on the non-Chinese 5G partners. It's basically Samsung, Nokia and Ericsson. So they have left out Huawei from this entire trial.
Is there a government edict that
I don't think there's any government edict, but I think it's a combination of subtle government push plus the commercial risk considerations taken by these telecom operators to not engage the Chinese company.
Would the government give an edict, as we've seen in the US and Australia?
I don't think so, because I think the Indian government would rather rely on the commercial considerations of these kind of decisions to make sure that the Chinese companies don't get access to that. Even though when it comes to the national security, I think the government is fairly clear in taking that position, where it has barred Huawei from participating in the critical infrastructure telecom facilities, which especially are in the border regions as well as for the sensitive military communications.
As we've said, India has a very complex diplomatic relationship with China. Does it walk a fine line between its economic interests with China and indeed its regional interests versus its security interests with the US?
Yes, I think both the Indian and Australian approaches match when it comes to China, which is focused on maximizing the economic opportunities coming from China, but at the same time adopting a tough posture or a hard posture when it comes to the Chinese aggressive activities. In case of India, that becomes a particular challenge because we have a border dispute with China, so we see that as a particular risk for India's national security. But yes, there is I think a fine combination of cooperation, competition, as well as some kind of collaboration which happens on this when it comes to engaging China.